Thank you. So sticking with the plant theme, now let's bring in Michael Jacob from the Native Plant Society. Michael Jacob is Eastham Township Environmental Commission member, and he's the Vice President of the Native Plant Society of New Jersey. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Valerie. I'm like a lifelong gardener and environmental advocate, and I love puttering around the yard and gardening. And I always thought I had a really wildlife friendly yard, you know, to have a bird bath and some birds and bird feeders. Until around 4 years ago, I read a book by Douglas Tolomei, Bringing Nature Home, where I discovered that a lot of the plants in my yard were from Asia, from Europe, not from North America, and really weren't supporting any of the native birds or insects. And I really got into the native plant thing and, found the Native Plant Society and got very seriously involved with that. And now I'm vice president. So if I could share my screen, I have a little presentation too.
John's working on that now.
Okay.
Go for it.
There we are. Okay, do you see the screen? There we go. You see the screen now?
Yep, you're all set.
Okay. So the Native Plant Society of New Jersey. Native Plant Society, it's a statewide nonprofit. Was founded in 1985. It's been around a while. And it's dedicated to the appreciation, protection, and study of the native flora of New Jersey, native plants. We're organized into chapters. Some are county-based, some are regional-based. And, we have hundreds of members. Some people are, professionals, some are amateurs, the whole gamut. Our chapters range from Sussex all the way up in the Highlands to Cape May, down at the Delaware Bay Shore. The chapters, they meet in small groups, at least, prior to COVID, they would have little in-person meetings. They would have speakers. We do field trips, walks, and hikes to different nature preserves. We do garden tours. We do plant sales and swaps. And lately, the chapters have their own little Zoom meetings where some have speakers and some are just people get together to talk about plants, swap tips. Our social media, we've always had our website, npsnj.org. It's updated almost daily with new announcements, news items. Our webinars, many of them are recorded. Recordings are available on the website.
Hey, Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt real quick. We're having a little trouble seeing your slides. We just see a white bar. So maybe you could close the show and just start it again.
Sure.
There we go. We see it now.
You see it? Okay.
Thank you.
And so we also have conferences. Traditionally, we have a spring and a fall conference where we have 3 or 4 speakers. We have different vendors and other groups give presentations, tables. We have usually at the conferences, we'll have plant sales, we'll have seed swaps. So it's good for everybody can meet. In other forms of outreach,
Mike, I'm sorry to keep doing you. We see that white bar again. Maybe if you could just get out of presentation mode, we can see most of your screen on the with the slides when you just do it in regular power. There you go. So we can see that outreach slide. It's just I can think whatever that next slide is.
Oh, the sharing is, it must be sharing my desktop or something.
Okay. But what we can see, if you want to just do it from PowerPoint, we could probably see the slides too. That's
yeah, we have a couple scholarships that we offer. We have last year we did mini grants where we had people apply and we gave out little grants to do little native demonstration gardens. Some in private areas, some in public areas. We also have a program where we collect and swap seeds, and we try to do plant propagation with the seeds, and we're trying to grow plants that are, not as widely available, plants that are endangered, see if we can grow them and restore them. And we're trying to get more involved with other organizations, with Rutgers, with Duke Farms, and sponsor some research into native plants. Why native plants? Steve covered a lot of this, but native plants have evolved with the local soil and climate. So there's less need to water them because they should be used to the average waterfall in the region. There's really no need to fertilize them. Nobody's in nature going out there with the Scott's Turf Builder. But if you want to do something, you can put compost on there. You can, in the fall, the leaves, you can do the leaves litter is the natural fertilizer. And there's no need for pesticide at all because you want the bugs to eat the plants. That's really the whole point of the native plants, is that the caterpillars eat the plants, and the caterpillars are the perfect food for the baby birds in the spring. And then the adult birds, they eat a lot of insects, insect pests. So it's a whole cycle of life thing. Many of the butterfly and moth species, their larvae, caterpillars, they can only feed on one species of native plant. There are generalists, but everybody knows about the monarch that can only eat the milkweed. Spicebush swallowtail can only lay its eggs, and the caterpillars can only feed on the spicebush. And there's quite a few moths and butterflies like that. So if you don't have that diversity of native plants, you're not going to have that diversity of butterfly and moth species. And all those caterpillars feed the birds. So Doug Talamay, who I mentioned earlier, Bringing Nature Home, he did a study of two trees, the native white oak and the infamous Bradford or Callery pear, which is ubiquitous, throughout the landscape. So on two occasions, he counted caterpillars on both trees of the same height and age. There were 410 caterpillars of 19 different species on the oak tree. One caterpillar was on the pear tree. Second study, 233 individuals, 15 species on the oak, one on the pear. The caterpillars, they've evolved to eat the native non-toxic leaves that provide them high values of nutrients. So the non-native Callery pear, it looks pretty for a week in the spring. It blooms really nice, but it adds nothing to the ecosystem because the things that eat it are back where it came from. So that's a problem. And it's also, there's two issues. One is that it doesn't support wildlife. And the other issue is that it's highly invasive. The Callery pear was kind of like developed, and it was supposed to initially be sterile seeds, but it turned out they weren't. And so it spreads like crazy, which there's a certain time in the spring you just drive down roads and you'll see all these white blooming trees at the edge of forests and in the fields, and it just takes over. And crowds out all the good trees that support the wildlife. So to wrap up, Native Plant Society, it's a membership-based organization. Annual membership is only $20, and that supports, all our mission and outreach. Like I said, we do Zoom webinars, which are free and open to the public. We have the website and Facebook page. We put out 3-4 times a year a newsletter, electronic. We use constant contact to send out email updates with notification of meetings and other kind of things. We have scholarships and grants, and we have the local chapters that do local in-person events. So thank you.
That's really interesting. Thanks, Mike, for the update. And we'll have the link to your website in our chat.